Have you ever felt it? That subtle, exhausting pressure to be more? More outgoing, more talkative, more visible. Have you ever sat in a meeting, formulating a deep thought, only for the conversation to move on before you were ready to speak? Or left a social gathering feeling completely drained, not because you didn't enjoy it, but because performing extroversion took everything out of you? For too long, the quiet souls of this world have been handed a script that was not written for them. A script that mistakes contemplation for hesitation and silence for emptiness. What if this script is a lie? What if your quiet nature is not a weakness to be overcome, but a profound and overlooked superpower? The great psychologist Carl Jung believed that our culture's obsession with the outward life has caused us to devalue a hidden inner world of immense power, a world that quiet souls inhabit naturally. This is not just a personality trait, it is a fundamental orientation of the soul. Today, we embark on a journey of reclamation. We will dismantle the myth that quiet is weak. We will uncover the extraordinary strengths, the deep focus, the keen observation, the powerful intuition that are cultivated in your inner sanctuary. And we will explore how to bring this hidden strength into the world, authentically and powerfully, on your own terms. This is not a guide on how to be louder. It is an initiation into the true power of your quiet soul. To begin this work of rediscovery, let's make a declaration. Write in the comments below, "My silence has a voice."
This feeling of being misunderstood is not your imagination. It is a cultural bias woven so deeply into the fabric of our society that we rarely even notice it. It is what some psychologists call the extrovert ideal. From the moment we enter a classroom, we are taught that the good student is the one who raises their hand first, the one who participates loudly, the one who is quick to speak. The quiet child in the back, observing, processing, and thinking deeply, is often overlooked, or worse, seen as a problem to be fixed. This bias follows us into our careers. Leadership is equated with charisma. Confidence is equated with talkativeness. Value is equated with visibility. We have built a world that rewards the broadcast of thought far more than the cultivation of it. And for the quiet soul, this world can feel like a foreign country where you are forced to speak a language that is not your own. Let's meet Sarah. She is 39 years old, a brilliant data analyst for a healthcare company. She is the one who can see the story hidden in the numbers. Her reports are meticulous, insightful, and often reveal critical trends that no one else has noticed. She does her best work in the quiet solitude of her office, where she can dive deep into the data, follow the threads, and emerge with a clarity that is her unique gift. But then comes the team meeting. The room is a storm of fast-paced ideas, interruptions, and loud voices, all competing for airtime. Her boss asks a complex question about a recent data set. Sarah knows the answer, not just the surface answer, but the deep, nuanced answer. But her mind doesn't work in quick sound bites. It needs a moment to connect the dots, to formulate the thought with precision. In that brief pause, someone else jumps in with a faster, simpler, less accurate answer. The conversation moves on. Sarah's insight is lost. She sits in the meeting feeling a familiar hollow ache, the ache of invisibility. She is in the room, but she is not seen. Later, in her performance review, her boss tells her, "Sarah, your work is excellent, but you need to be more proactive in meetings. We need you to have more of a presence." And here is the subtle tragedy. Sarah internalizes this. She doesn't think, The environment is not designed for my way of thinking. She thinks, there is something wrong with me. She starts to see her own thoughtfulness not as a strength, but as a fatal flaw. Her need for reflection feels like a bug in her system. She begins a quiet, exhausting internal war against her own nature, trying to force herself to be faster, louder, more like the people who are praised. This is a form of shadow work in reverse. Instead of integrating the shadow, she is trying to become the shadow of someone else's ideal. She is exiling her own greatest strength, her depth, into the unconscious because the world has told her that her strength looks like weakness. The exhaustion that people like Sarah feel is not just social fatigue. It is the profound, soul-crushing exhaustion of inauthenticity. It is the energy drain of constantly running a translation program in your head, translating your deep internal world into a language that the fast-paced external world might understand. It is the friction of your soul being forced into a container that is too small for it. Carl Jung understood this friction better than anyone. He saw that a society that only values one way of being creates a deep wound in the collective psyche. It forces millions of people to disown the very essence of who they are. We are told to come out of our shell, but no one ever asks what treasures might be hidden inside that shell. We're told to speak up, but no one teaches the world how to listen to the quiet. So if you have ever felt this way, if you have ever felt like your contribution was overlooked because it wasn't delivered in a loud package, if you have ever felt guilty for needing solitude to recharge, know this: you are not broken. You are a deep-sea diver in a world obsessed with water skiing. The problem is not the depth at which you operate. The problem is that you have been taught to judge your own magnificent abilities by the standards of the surface. But what if we could change that? What if you could learn to see your inner world not as a liability, but as the very source of your power? That is the great liberation that Jung's work offers. And it begins with a radical act of reimagining, not of who you should be, but of who you already are.
So, how do we begin to reclaim this power we were taught to hide? We begin by changing the very definition of the words themselves. Carl Jung proposed one of the most liberating ideas in modern psychology. He argued that introversion and extroversion are not about being shy or outgoing. They are not measures of social skill. They are simply the natural direction of your soul's energy. Think of it like this. An extrovert is like a solar panel. They face outward, absorbing energy from interaction, from stimulation, from the external world. An introvert is like a geothermal well. They draw energy from within, from the deep, quiet, consistent warmth of their own inner world. One is not better than the other. They are simply different ways of generating power. Our society has built a world full of solar panels, and then it looks at the geothermal well and asks, "Why aren't you facing the sun?" This is the fundamental misunderstanding we are here to correct. Your quietness is not an absence of energy. It is a different kind of energy, a deeper, more concentrated kind. And this energy cultivates a set of extraordinary strengths, superpowers that are desperately needed in our loud, shallow world. Let's name the first superpower: deep focus. In a world drowning in distraction, the ability to concentrate is a rare and precious commodity. The introvert's tendency to turn inward gives them a natural advantage here. They can shut out the noise. They can follow a single train of thought for miles without getting derailed. This is the power behind the brilliant scientist lost in a formula, the novelist crafting a world, the coder solving an impossible bug. It is the power of deep work. An extrovert might generate 100 ideas in an hour of brainstorming.
The introvert might generate 3, but one of them will change the entire project. It is the difference between a fireworks display and the laser beam. The second superpower is keen observation. Because the quiet soul is not spending energy on talking, they have more resources available for seeing. They are the observers in the room. They notice the subtle shift in body language during a negotiation. They hear the hesitation in a client's voice that reveals their true concern. They see the pattern connecting 3 different problems that everyone else saw as separate issues. This is not just about being quiet. It is about a heightened state of receptivity. They absorb more data from the environment. A nurse who is a quiet soul might not be the chattiest at the nurse's station, but she is the one who notices the slight change in a patient's breathing that signals a coming crisis. Her quietness is not disinterest. It is a profound form of presence. This leads us to the third superpower, emotional depth and empathy. The introverted journey is an inward one. This means they have spent a lifetime navigating the complex landscape of their own emotions. This self-knowledge gives them a unique capacity to understand the inner worlds of others. They know what loneliness feels like. They understand nuance and subtlety and the quiet ache of unspoken feelings. Their empathy is not the loud performative sympathy of, "Oh, I'm so sorry for you." It is the quiet, powerful presence that says, "I am here with you in this darkness, and I am not afraid." They create deep, authentic, one-on-one connections. They may not be the life of the party, but they are the friend you call at 3 a.m. They are the trusted confidant, the wise counselor, the person whose presence alone feels like a sanctuary. And finally, the fourth superpower, which is the culmination of all the others, calculated action. There is a common misconception that introverts are indecisive. This is fundamentally untrue. They are not indecisive, they are deliberate. An extrovert might make a decision quickly based on external feedback and a gut reaction. An introvert's decision-making process is internal. They observe, they process, they run simulations in their mind. They connect the decision to their core values. So when they finally do act, their action is not a reaction. It is a conclusion. It is rooted in a deep foundation of thought and reflection. Think of a master chess player. They are not making a dozen fast, flashy moves. They are sitting in silence, observing the whole board. And then they make one quiet move that changes the entire game. That is the strength of the quiet soul. These are not just personality quirks. These are the hidden assets of an inward-facing psychic system. The journey of shadow work for a quiet soul is not about trying to become more extroverted. That is a path to exhaustion. The true journey is about recognizing, honoring, and consciously wielding the superpowers you already possess. It is about looking at your need for solitude not as a social failing, but as your sacred time to recharge your geothermal well. It is about understanding that your quiet pause in a conversation is not a sign of weakness, but the gathering of a deep and powerful force. You have been carrying a quiver full of powerful arrows, but you have been told they were just sticks. Now, it is time to learn how to aim. To know you have these superpowers is one thing. To learn how to wield them in a world that doesn't understand them is another. This is where our inner work becomes outer practice. It is not about changing who you are. It is about strategically creating an environment where who you are can thrive. Let's explore 3 practical, powerful shifts you can begin making today, not to become more extroverted, but to become more effectively introverted. The first shift is a profound one. Manage your energy, not your time. The extroverted world is obsessed with time management, calendars, deadlines, efficiency hacks. But for a quiet soul, the most precious resource is not time. It is psychic energy. You can have an entire free day on your calendar, but if your inner well is dry, that time is worthless. Let's go back to Sarah, our data analyst. In the past, she would attend back-to-back meetings, then force herself to go to a team happy hour, all because it was on the schedule. She would come home feeling hollowed out, with no energy left for her family or herself. Now, Sarah has learned to look at her week not as blocks of time, but as a series of energy transactions. A loud, intense brainstorming meeting is a major withdrawal, so she now intentionally schedules a deposit immediately after. This isn't a 2-hour nap, it's a 15-minute walk alone around the block. It's eating her lunch at her desk with noise-canceling headphones, listening to calming music. It's closing her office door for 10 minutes and just staring out the window. These are not acts of laziness. They are essential acts of psychic hygiene. You must begin to see your need for solitude not as a weakness, but as your sacred recharging ritual. Guard this time fiercely. It is the source of all your other strengths. When you start managing your energy, you stop showing up to the world depleted. You start showing up whole. The second shift is about communication. Prepare, don't perform. The extroverted ideal rewards spontaneous, performative speaking, but the introvert's strength lies in considered, thoughtful contribution. Trying to compete in a game of rapid-fire responses is a losing battle, so you must change the game. Before an important meeting, take 30 minutes, not to rehearse a speech, but to connect with your own deep thoughts. Write down the 3 most important points you want to make. Anticipate the key questions and write down your nuanced answers. This is not about creating a rigid script. It is about preloading your best thinking so that in the heat of the moment, you are not trying to generate ideas from scratch. You are simply accessing the deep work you have already done. And if the conversation moves too fast, use the power of the follow-up. A well-crafted email after a meeting saying, "After reflecting on our conversation, I had a further thought," can be far more impactful than a shouted idea that gets lost in the noise. This email is your arena. In the quiet, considered space of the written word, your superpower of depth can truly shine. You are not failing at the meeting. You are choosing a different, more powerful venue for your voice. The third and most courageous shift is this: embrace the power of the pause. In conversation, silence can feel uncomfortable, awkward. We rush to fill it. But for the quiet soul, the pause is not an empty space. It is a workshop. It is where thoughts are forged. I want you to try an experiment. The next time someone asks you a meaningful question, instead of rushing to answer, I want you to give yourself permission to do something radical. Be silent. Take a visible, conscious breath. You can even say the magic words, "That's a great question. Let me think about that for a moment." In that moment, you are not being slow. You are demonstrating immense self-respect. You are signaling that the question is important and that your answer will be thoughtful, not reactive. You are claiming your right to your own cognitive process. This small act does something incredible. It changes the energy of the entire conversation. It slows the world down to your pace. It teaches people that your silence is not a void. It is the quiet hum of a powerful engine. Managing your energy, preparing your thoughts, owning your pause. These are not tricks to mimic extroversion. They are authentic strategies to leverage the true power of your introverted nature. This is the heart of what Carl Jung called individuation. It is the process of becoming more fully and unapologetically yourself. The journey of shadow work for the quiet soul involves reclaiming these strategies from the shadow of shame. It is about realizing that your way of being in the world is not just valid, it is vital. The world does not need more echoes. It desperately needs more deep, quiet, original voices. Voices like yours.
Today, we have walked into the quiet sanctuary of the inner world. We have dismantled the great cultural lie that mistakes silence for weakness. We have held the truth of the quiet soul up to the light. We began by acknowledging the ache of invisibility, the quiet pain of being a deep thinker in a world that rewards fast talkers. We met Sarah, a reflection of so many of us, who was taught to see her greatest strength as a flaw. Then, guided by the profound wisdom of Carl Jung, we redefined introversion itself, not as a social handicap, but as the direction of our soul's energy. We named the superpowers that this inner-directed energy cultivates: the laser beam of deep focus, the heightened receptivity of keen observation, the authentic connection of empathy, and the profound power of calculated action. And finally, we translated this newfound awareness into a new way of being, not by changing our nature, but by honoring it. We learned to manage our energy, not just our time, to prepare our thoughts instead of performing them, and to embrace the pregnant pause, transforming awkward silence into a space of power. This journey is the essence of shadow work for the quiet soul. It is the act of calling back the parts of yourself you exiled in order to fit in. It is the courage to finally stop apologizing for the way your soul was designed. Your need for solitude is not antisocial, it is sacred. Your thoughtfulness is not slowness, it is depth. Your quietness is not emptiness, it is a wellspring. As you begin to live from this place of authenticity, you will notice a shift. You will stop seeking validation from a world that was never built for you, and you will start to cultivate a deep, unshakable sense of your own worth. You will find that true influence is not about being the loudest person in the room. It is about being the most centered. But as you start to honor your inner world, a new and mysterious phenomenon often begins to occur. You might think of a long-lost friend, and they call you the next day. You might be grappling with a problem, and the perfect book to solve it falls off a shelf in a bookstore. You might see the same number or the same symbol appearing over and over again in meaningful ways. These are not mere coincidences. Carl Jung had a name for these moments of profound, meaningful alignment. He called it synchronicity. He believed these were not random accidents, but whispers from a deeper intelligence, nudges from the universe guiding you along your true path. How do we learn to recognize these cosmic clues? How do we distinguish a meaningful coincidence from mere chance? And what are these synchronicities trying to tell us about our life's purpose? That is the mystical and fascinating territory we will explore together in our next journey as we decode When Synchronicities Speak, Jung's Cosmic Blueprint Unveiled. For now, your practice is one of quiet celebration. Your invitation is to honor the very nature you once saw as a burden. To make this real, I ask you to share a piece of your reclaimed power with this community. In the comments below, please complete this sentence. My quietness is my power because it allows me to. Let the world know what treasures are found in your silence. By sharing your strength, you give others permission to find their own. Thank you for the gift of your quiet presence. It is more powerful than you know.